A lot of times we see people thinking that they diversify, but in reality, they do not diversify too much. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, what do you do if it goes wrong?
The whole idea of diversification, does that only apply to people who have a lot of money, or is it applicable to anybody?
That's the beauty of having a co-host, a rabbi, you see? And they also decided that they're only going to get rich once.
Get Jill, the wisdom for your will.
Good morning, Rav Sholem. Good to see you again.
How are you, Reb Chaim? It's always a pleasure.
I'm doing amazing. Baruch Hashem, great. So it's good to see you. And we're going to talk about a question that came in a lot. You know, I get this question a lot, especially from people who don't have too much money.
Okay.
They're starting out, or they have, let's say, anywhere between 10 and 100 and $200,000, something like that. So it's not too
Right.
much. The problem is it's a lot of money, especially for them. And the problem is that we all know about diversification. We all know that don't put all your eggs in one basket. Make sure you diversify. That you should, in case something goes wrong, you should still be okay. But then the problem is, when you have like millions of dollars, it's easy to diversify. You know that you put in only $1 million in one deal, $1 million in a different deal, and so on and so forth. But when you have less money, how do you diversify? What do you do? And that's a question that comes in a lot. And I think it would be a great idea to discuss it and address the question.
It sounds very exciting.
So I want to start with a quick story. I mentioned this story many times already in my Yiddish podcast, but I think I never mentioned it in in the English podcast, and I think it's a good opportunity to share it. The story illustrates that point. A few years ago, I get a call from a friend of mine. So my friend called. He knows him. I'm in the finance industry, so he wanted to discuss with me a certain opportunity. So he tells me, I have $250,000 saved, and I have this and this guy, a friend of mine, called me up. I know what he's doing. He's a developer, basically. The friend is a developer, and
Right.
he offered to my friend, which is also his friend, that he should put in the $250,000 by him. He's going to buy a piece of property that he's going to develop, and and uh and they're gonna basically, it's gonna cost them a $500,000, so it's gonna be 250 from my friend and 250 from the developer, and then they will split the profit. So
Right.
my friend asks me, Chaim, what do you think? Should I do it or not? So of course I ask him about the developer, about his experience, about, if the bottom line, he feels very comfortable with the developer. He's a close friend with him for years already, and he knows firsthand his success stories.
Right.
So he's very comfortable. So the question is not if he should trust the developer or not. The question was more, is it smart to take my entire savings of $250,000 that I cannot afford to lose? I don't have anything else. That's the only thing I have. Is it smart to take the entire amount and put it into this deal with my friend or not? At kana shala. So I asked my friend first, you calling me because of what? Because I'm your friend, or because I'm a financial professional? What is what hat do I need to put on when I answer you the question? He said, both. I know you're a friend and a financial professional, so I feel comfortable discussing it with you. What do I do? So I told them, if I give you the professional answer, it's for sure that you should not do it. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, what do you do if it goes wrong? You can't afford to lose it.
Right.
But the way that he explained me the opportunity, it looked like a very good opportunity that the Emma's very excited with it. So, and he feels it's going to bring him a lot of opportunity. And the only reason that he has access to this opportunity is because it's his friend. Otherwise, he would never partner. The developer would never partner with him. He has enough
Right.
cash. He has enough for where to take the money from. With a friend, he wanted to partner. So he really wanted to do it. So as a professional, I told him I can't tell you to do it. But as a friend, I'm thinking if it makes sense to do it or not. Maybe it's a different approach. I told them I'm not going to say that it's good or bad, but I will tell you that a lot of very successful people have such a starting story. that they started like that. I'm not saying it's
Mhm.
smart. And Shlomo Melech says, "Lo lechachom am lechem." Maybe it's a stupid idea, but
Right.
this is a story that a lot of people had, and their success started like that. They invested a few $100,000, and they were matzliach with it, and then they reinvested in another project, then in another project. But I can't tell you if it's good or that you should do it or not. So my friend is quiet for a minute. A very sharp guy, and then he says, "Ah, now I chap. What you're saying is alocha v'ayim. So basically, it's the story that we know from Pinchas when he
Right.
killed Zimri ben Suli and with the Medunis, Kozvi Basur, we're not going to go into arichas and that, but basically, Haboy el Aram is Kenuim Pogem boy,
Mhm.
and it's something that even though this is what he had to do, nobody was able to tell him to do it. There are certain things there's certain things that it's very admirable if you do it, and it's you become a hero when you do it. That's basically what a hero means. A hero means somebody who did something that was not expected from him.
Mhm. Right.
If you just do what you're supposed to do, you're not a hero, you're just a mensch. But if you do what you're not expected of to do, and you still do it, you go out of your way, that's a hero.
Right.
Lahavdil in Yiddishkeit, we can call it maybe Hasidus. You do lifnei Mashiris Aden. I'm not talking about the Hasidic garment. I'm talking about the 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 way that you act. So anyway, so he told me, oh, halacha v'ayim. It's something that I loved that. I loved how he summarized it. Very sharp and
Right.
very like in one line he summarized it. And it's true. I cannot tell anybody to do such a thing. It's impossible. But I also cannot tell you not to do anything because the fact is that a lot of people were very matzliach. Of course, if you decide to do such a thing, you have to be super, super careful and make sure that you really know what you're doing, and you do it with people that really know what they're doing, and everything is documented and on your name. Then only then maybe you can think about that. But it's an important think, I think it's good food for thought. And then, I thought it's a
Yeah.
good introduction before we talk about diversification.
Right. And I just want to mention halacha American, I think, applies when somebody themselves are comfortable with going ahead and doing whatever it is that they're thinking about. If they feel confident in it themselves, then halacha American applies. But the confidence has to be there.
Of course, but even if you have the confidence, doesn't mean that you're gonna succeed.
No, but but you have to the person you're talking to, you have to make sure that they indeed are confident in being able to deal with all the challenges that are going to come with it.
It's interesting what you're saying, Shulam. I think what you're saying is, tell me if that's correct. You're saying is that the person who is going to do the act has to be confident and has to be comfortable with the consequences.
That's right.
In other words, Pinchas was not doing it because he knew he was going to be saved.
Right.
Pinchas did it, an act of Mesiras Nefesh. He thought he's going to be killed for doing such a thing, and he was ready for it.
Right. Correct.
And
Correct.
then a miracle happened. But the miracle
Then,
doesn't always happen.
so then the category of halacha Imarian Kane applies. But halacha Imarian Kane doesn't just mean, you don't know if you don't have an answer or you don't want to pass and therefore the person can do whatever they want. Halacha Imarian Kane has also ramifications. If you're gonna give a halacha Imarian Kane type of psak, you have to make sure that the person you're talking to is holding by that. That's your
First of all, I
responsibility.
cannot give an halacha v'ayimorikam psak because it's contradicting. Halacha v'ayimorikam means it's not a psak.
Okay, fair enough. But I'm
But
saying
it's an interesting line in a conversation.
that's right. Yes.
And I loved how he summarized it. That's why I'm bringing in the story.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Right. But again, confidence and being comfortable is crucial in these situations.
Right. So I'm not gonna tell anybody to do that. That's not the purpose that I gave this story. The only reason I talked about it was to introduce. First of all, I think it's a cute story.
Very nice
Um,
story. Yes.
so, but it's a good introduction to diversification. Now, when we talk about diversification, a lot of times we see people thinking that they diversify, but in reality, they do not diversify too much. I'll give you an example. I once spoke to a member in our community. We have a community that we help people with their finances. I like to help successful people establish long-term success. That's what we do in our membership. So one of our members, when they came in, they explained that they diversify. How do they diversify? They diversify by he's in real estate. He's investing his money in real estate, and then the real estate, he doesn't put all his money in one piece of property. He tries to have as many properties as possible, so his money is diversified. But after speaking to him, after him giving me the whole mahalach, how he's doing it, I saw that more or less he's focusing in one neighborhood and more or less the same asset type, housing, for example, residential units, and even his tenants are more or less from the same type of people. So I don't think I can call that diversification. I mean, yeah, it's diversified that if something that is unique to this specific residential unit, if you can find the uniqueness to it, you still have the other, that if something goes wrong there, you still have the others. But a real diversification would be that you are diversified between many asset types. For example, you can have real estate, you can have stocks, you can have bonds, you can have more secured products, more fixed products. You can have US based companies in your stock portfolio, and then you can have international companies, overseas companies in your stock portfolio, and different sectors. For example, you can be in growth stocks, you can be in dividend paying stocks, you can be in technology and in travel. This is what I mean when I call when I speak about diversification.
So before we go any further, we're talking about a term diversification. You said it's not just about diversification is when you diversify and just using and you spreading your money about in multiple different types of situations that are all the same category, but really splitting your money into separate categories. So it's not about how you split your money, but it's splitting your money into specific to various categories rather than just spreading your money around in one category. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. And you can go as deep as you want, but sometimes you have to be careful not to over diversify also, because
Right.
sometimes if you over diversify, it becomes so complicated that you can't even manage your finances. You don't have we have a software that we provide for all the members that they can see everything in one page and they can always see how the diversification looks. But if you over diversify, sometimes it becomes too overwhelming, and what ends up happening, sometimes people freak out and they don't do anything. So you have to be
Right.
very careful with that also.
Okay. So it's just a couple questions. Number one, you've been talking about diversification and the idea of not keeping all your eggs in one basket. But is that like a rule across? Is that always the rule? Or, why is it not considered diversification if you're just spreading your money among several different housing complexes? Why is that not, why is that a contradiction to keeping your eggs in one basket? That's one question. Number two, the whole idea of diversification, does that only apply to people who have a lot of money, or is it applicable to anybody who wants to start saving? At what point does diversification actually become relevant to everyone who's listening?
Sure. So let me answer your question, the first question first. So basically, as we discussed, in real estate, if real estate market changes, then you have all your money in real estate. It doesn't matter if it's one project or a few portfolio buildings or a few. It depends if you have a diversification of the asset type. For example, if you have office buildings and then you have residential units and then you have shopping centers, this is diversification. It's still in one asset class, which is real estate, but you have diversification in that class. But to be able to do such a diversification, you're talking about a lot of money usually. So you're asking about if it's only to wealthy people, or it's for everybody. And I can tell you one thing, Shulam, you don't if you don't approach your finances with the same rules with little money, then you think then it has to be applied with bigger money, even if you're going to have the bigger money, you're going to make the same mistakes. And it's even more than that. You can, from one side, you can say that the wealthier person, what's going to happen? What's worst case that can happen? Yeah, he can lose money. If he is not over leveraged, if he's doing things within a certain framework, maybe he's not going to be wealthy anymore, but he's going to have parnosa. Of course, exceptions apply. I'm just generalizing things. But for this person who has $200,000-300,000 saved, if something is going to go wrong for him, chas v'shulam, then he might lose everything. It's much worse than if for the wealthy person it's not gonna it goes wrong. So it's important for everybody. 100% it's important for everybody. And I think the less you have, the more important it is for you. But the challenge is that the less you have, you have less opportunity to diversify in the traditional sense, because nobody, let's say you have $200,000, most good deals are not going to be interested in speaking to you for less than a few $100,000. So it's more challenging, but it's doable, especially if you start looking in the markets, in the financial markets, like the stock market, in index funds, things like that. You have opportunity where to uh, where to diversify with smaller amounts of money. So, which is a good thing. But some people don't know how to do it, and that's why I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me an interesting clip from Warren Buffett. I love the clip. I think it's so important. It's such an important message. He says there, I don't know if you know, Shulam, that Warren Buffett is underleveraged, like aggressively underleveraged.
Okay.
So he doesn't take too much leverage. And somebody asked him at an investors meeting, why don't you, I think it was back when interest was very low. So somebody asked me, why don't you take more leverage? You have so much money that you can take. Let's say that, you can take, let's say 60-70% of your assets and loans, and the bank will gladly give it to you. And then you can invest even more. If you believe in what you do, why don't you leverage more?
Right.
And I always had this question about Warren Buffett. I mean, he's a smart investor, so why don't you know what OPM is, right? Other people's money.
Right.
You use other people's money. So why don't you take loans from the bank? You pay 3-4% interest, and you invest it.
Right.
I love the answer. He said that he had a conversation with Charlie Munger years ago when they started, and they decided what they're going to do, and they also decided that they're only going to get rich once. So he doesn't want to do anything, even if it's going to give him more wealth, more opportunities, more access. He doesn't want to do anything that will deviate from the commitment that they made, that they only want to get rich once.
Okay.
And unfortunately, we see a lot of people who over leverage. And I know many wealthy people who were wealthy a few times, multiple times, and they keep becoming wealthy again and again. Baruch Hashem. It's very painful to see what I have to go through between one gilgul of wealth and the other gilgul of wealth. But it's definitely more peace of mind, and you can sleep better when you make a commitment only to get wealthy once.
Right. Right. I got it. Okay.
Anything else that we should discuss before we finish?
Well, I think that's just a recap. So you've introduced a really, important topic here of diversification. I believe you defined it that it's not just about spreading your money around in one category, but of investments. But the important thing, true diversification is spreading your money around in different types of categories of investments to ensure that your risk of losing is outweighed by what you're going to gain from your investments, and you don't have to worry about different markets going down because you always have the other investments to rely on. And so far, so good. That's what I understand diversification.
Very good. The only thing I would add, it's not only in different asset classes, but also in different markets. We all love the US, and the US hopefully will be a strong economy for the next gazillion years with Mashiach together, of course. But history doesn't show like that. History shows us different. History shows us that every, we're not coming from Hanukkah. Hanukkah, who was the world power by the Nes Hanukkah? Yovan,
Yeah.
the Greeks. And what happened to them? There are nobody today. I mean, it's just a
Right.
country. And now it's the US. Everybody has their time. It doesn't mean that it's going to stay like that forever. I know Trump makes it sound like it's going to stay forever, but I don't know what people think. Even if Trump is going to be for 4 years and then he's going to have a successor for another 8 years, it's also 12 years. That's it. And then we have another cycle. I don't know what. We don't know how long this game is going to, how long the US is going to be such a strong economy.
Right.
So it's very, very important not to act overconfident. You should always act with humility. I don't know nothing. I know what's in front of me. And I know also that for sure things are going to change. How it's going to change? I would rather not make the most money, but do the right thing and be financially stable than to always go and try to make the most. Because I think
Right.
the recipe of trying to get rich a few times. I would rather try to, for most people, they can't afford to get rich a few times. They have to. I'm calling it rich. It's not really rich. And it's about having enough money for chasanas, having enough money for your retirement, having enough money for whatever life throws at you.
Right.
Try to do it once and do it good on sound footing.
Right. The bottom line is that a certain amount of risk we have to take if we want to indeed hit that mark financially, but it has to be moderate. It has to be, I don't even know if it's moderate risk. It has to be risk that's intentional risk and thought out, risk that's thought out well and planned for. Because it sounds to me it's inevitable. You can't not be successful financially without taking some degree of risk. But
Right, but that's true also with everything in life. You
with
have to
everything,
take a risk and go out of
absolutely.
your house. You take a
Right,
risk by getting out of bed. You take a risk.
right. But we have to be intentional about how that type of risk that we take is. And in certain circumstances, halacha ve'in morin kain. Not everybody's holding by halacha ve'in morin kain, but there are people who are. They're a different category of people.
So that's the beauty of having a co-host, a rabbi. You see, you're always gonna
Gewaldig.
keep me in check when I talk about halacha. Beautiful.
Fantastic. Meredith
Okay,
Reb Chaim.
Reb
Okay,
Shulam, have
Molly
a wonderful
Yisraelis.
day.
Okay, you too. Looking forward.
Kol
Okay,
tov.
we'll see you again soon.
Get Kelp, the wisdom for your well. Get Kelp, the wisdom for your well.